Good morning, this is Charmion, and I would like to thank you for joining me once again on my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This day, this beautiful day that we've been blessed to be in, I would like to share with you stories about parenting and just how I have navigated my way through and being a mother, but not just being a mother, being a single parent mother, and what that has been like for me along my journey in parenting. I became a mother in 2005 with my first child, and that experience wasn't what I had planned it in my mind, in my dreams, in what I thought my situation was going to be. I became a single parent, and that was something totally opposite of what I saw myself being growing up. When we are children, we always have in our minds, most of the time, where we see ourselves, how we see ourselves, and what we see ourselves doing and becoming most of the times. Seeing my mother struggle in raising me, and the fact that she wasn't there a lot of the times, majority of the times, I knew I did not want that for myself. I knew I did not want to be a single parent. I knew I wanted a husband. I knew that I wanted more. I finished school, I finished college. I started a career. I purchased my first home when I was 26. Okay, sorry. My little one woke up and it's early. Anyway, I bought my first home when I was 26 years old. So I was on my path of creating for myself the American dream. I bought that house. So the next thing to accomplish was the husband and then the family. So I was checking off that list. So then I had that next significant relationship. So I was on my way and I was feeling pretty good about it. I was feeling confident. I was on top of my game, so things were going in my mind great. Perfect boyfriend, things are happening, and things happened. The baby happened. I got pregnant. And I'm ready. I'm ready because at that time I was 28 years old. So in my mind, college, check, career, check, house, check, relationship, check. We've been together for a year and a half. I'm thinking, okay, I'm good, you good. Next step, the baby, about to be here. Why can't we move on to the next level and solidify this? But that didn't happen because in my mind, that was supposed to happen. But when it didn't happen, that was a hard pill to swallow because all of my dreams came crashing down. Because what did that mean for me? The one thing I really didn't want to be in this world was a single parent. I didn't I did not want to be a single parent. So I was angry for a long time that I was a single parent. And my dream of having that family didn't happen the way, in accordance to the way I had planned it in my mind, because in my mind, things were going to go the way I wanted them, because I did not want to be that single parent. That wasn't going to happen to me. The one thing I didn't learn until years later was the law of attraction. No one tells to me, and when I say this, African American children how to think different. We go to church, and we learn how to think biblically in regards to wanting to elevate ourselves, but only on a certain level, because with that comes, you don't want to think better, but you want to think better. Don't want to think better, but you want to think better. But it's like you want to think better, but you're not supposed to have it. But you're supposed to have it, but you're not supposed to have it. You're supposed to have the riches of the land, but you're not really supposed to have the riches of the land. And that's contradicting what the pastor's saying that he's supposed to have. So how am I supposed to come rich? How am I supposed to think better of myself when I'm not really supposed to think better? So I lived in conflict for a very long time, and I lived in shame. I lived in so much shame, because think about, at the time I was going to church and how much shame I had of being this single parent. And in my mind, wearing the label, having a child who was illegitimate. And I refuse to give the last name. Like, why am I giving her your last name when we are not married? How can I honor that? And there was no promise of that happening. And oftentimes when we as women, we get in relationships with men, and we do honor that. A lot of women honor that. And I eventually did honor that in my last relationship, because I believe that the promise was given to me. The promise was given to me that we were going to get married. But when that promise didn't happen, and I had the baby, and the promise is broken, and now this baby carries your last name, and I don't have the last name, then it's resentment. And it's hard to maneuver around these things when broken promises happen, when children are had and the relationship is broken. It's hard. And then, because in the mind, we're thinking that we're not thinking we're having a baby to bring us together. That's not the purpose of it at all. But we create life, and the union of it is to be the family. It took a long time to accept the reality of my situation in parenting single, the challenges of parenting single, wearing both hats of parenting single, knowing that the bulk of the burden of the responsibility falls on you, and then having to place boundaries there in that relationship, how to co-parent, learning how to co-parent, and then learning how to feel different, about the relationship now that there's no relationship, or the relationship changes, the dynamics have to change. is the hardest part of coming out of a relationship with somebody after having a child and then having to parent differently when those feelings are definitely there, and then having to change the feelings because someone doesn't feel the same anymore, is the most challenging thing to maneuver through. And that was another relationship, and two of them I've had, and never in my life did I ever see myself, one, as a woman that would have to parent two children out of broken relationships. Thankful for my daughters, but having to navigate through the broken relationships that have followed behind them is a challenge. And then having to pick up the pieces, having to put yourself back together, having to place boundaries there, having to understand now where you belong and how you see yourself, because people are going to have their opinions about you regardless. And I think that's where I had to let go of that. But it was me. It was what I thought of myself, and where I had to really forgive myself for what I felt and what I lost, and then learning what I put out there into the universe and thinking of myself differently about who I am and not what I'm not, and then changing my idea of what it is I want and not attaching the negative to that, but attaching positive to those thoughts, positive thinking, and not saying, well, I'm not going to be a single parent, but now that is not the situation anymore. But attracting what it is I want. I want that loving husband, or I'm going to have that loving husband, or I have that loving husband. Bringing to myself what it is I do and truly desire, for myself, and seeing myself as that. And that is what has helped me to navigate through things better now than I have before. So what I'm wishing for you to understand now is that it is not easy, and I know it, going through situations where we believe that what's going to turn out to be something totally different with the individual, carrying a life into this world with the individual, and it turns out the total opposite of what you had imagined it to be, and then having to try to pick up the pieces from that, and then having to explain why to a child, we're not together, whether it was in a marriage or whether it was in a relationship that didn't turn out to be what you wanted it to be. That's still, even if it was a marriage, it's hard, because either way you turn out to be the single parent, and the feelings there. And what we have to do as single parent people is forgive ourselves. Forgive ourselves for our part that we played in it, and forgive ourselves for what we can't change, and let that go and move on and find peace in it. Just find your peace. Because what you have now is the greatest thing, and that is a family. There are children that will love you unconditionally, regardless of what you are. They don't see you less than. They don't see you as a mom or a dad that's less than. They see you as their hero, and that's all they know, and that's all that matters. So love yourself. Have a great day.